Okay, welcome Rutgers Nation. Is Fran Brown going to be the next Darrell Royal, Bear Bryant, Bo Schembechler, or Bobby Bowden of Rutgers? These guys seem to think so. Let's get to it. Okay, so is Fran Brown, now head coach at Syracuse, going to be Rutgers' savior? Somebody who we, according to Bill Landis and Doug Lemerises, going to be building statues for in the future. Here's what they had to say. Let's get to it.
This is the kitchen's on fire Rutgers take, which is Greg Schiano continues to build this thing. Give him another 10 years in the job. Fran Brown is the real deal, and the absolute culmination of this is when Greg Schiano leaves Rutgers. Fran Brown, with options aplenty. Maybe he's still at Syracuse by then. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's a head coach at a bigger school. Maybe he's an NFL head coach. Maybe he's an NFL coordinator. I don't know. But he's Jersey through and through, right? Jersey through and through.
Yeah, Camden guy.
Maybe. So he's got the culmination of this is Greg Schiano built a program that when he leaves, Fran Brown's like, I'm going home. And Fran Brown becomes the Bobby Bowden, Darrell Royal, Bo Schembechler, Joe Paterno, Bear Bryant, Woody Hayes of Rutgers football. And Rutgers football, like 40 years from now, is a thing. And they have statues of Fran Brown outside because they finally built it into a true college football blue blood.
Okay, let's get to it. I have a few issues with this. I think what happens a lot, as you know, when we're talking about coaching vacancies or even recruiting, how we try too hard to connect the dots. Yes, Fran Brown is from Camden. He could have been the coach in waiting at Rutgers. Perhaps he kind of knew or felt that it would be a while before he became head coach. He'd go off somewhere else, have some success. I don't really see that. Fran has yet to coach a single game in Division I as a head coach. Yes, he's a very good recruiter. Has had some success early when he went to Syracuse. If you remember a few months ago, Rutgers fans were wringing their hands over the fact that Fran Brown went to Syracuse and that he was having some early success. But if you look at where we've been lately, we've been going head-to-head with Syracuse in our successful 2025 football recruiting class, and it hasn't been very close. So I have total faith in Greg Schiano and staff to figure things out, make it happen. When you're talking about the dynamic between Syracuse and Rutgers, look, Syracuse has, some history there, especially with basketball. They are in the middle of nowhere, and they do get 130 inches of snow. You have to do a really good job at selling recruits on Syracuse, more so these days than in the past. Nonetheless, legitimate program with a legitimate college campus. So the other thing with Fran is, I'm not really sure that he is so focused and committed on being the Jersey guy who's going to take the program to the next level. He seems like a guy that's not going to let grass grow under his feet, and he will be always looking for the next one. Who knows? NFL coordinator, who knows if it's as an NFL head coach. Maybe he takes over head coaching, if he has success at Syracuse, takes over as a head coach in the Big Ten or SEC, where he's had positions in both conferences. Nonetheless, if we're going to build statues, I think Greg Schiano is certainly on a path towards that. When you look at the legendary coaches they talked about, Bear Bryant, Darrell Royal, Bo Schembechler, Bobby Bowden, those programs, the guys that came before them weren't necessarily just program builders, and they took it over and took it to the next level. When you look at Bear Bryant, who was the guy, the granite statue when I was growing up, Alabama already had 5 or 6 national championships with Wallace Wade and Frank Thomas. No, not that Frank Thomas. So even though Alabama had kind of fallen on hard times, Alabama was a state university that already had success. Darrell Royal at Texas had 3 number 1 rankings. Before him, Dana Bible was kind of the program builder. Dana Bible had number 1 rankings at Nebraska and Texas A&M. Before that, he had 3 conference championships and a 3-0-1 bowl record with Texas. You know, before we had like 68 teams playing in bowl games. Bo Schembechler, surprisingly, and I look back on it, I think about it, you know, watching those famous Michigan-Ohio State games, never won a national championship. He was a great regular season coach. He was 5-12 in bowl games. I guess Ohio State maybe had a lot to do with that. But before Bo Schembechler took over the head coaching position at Michigan, Michigan had already had 10 national championships. So Greg Schiano might be a program builder, but Rutgers hasn't really had the national success that these other coaches had the benefit of. The other thing, you know, it's kind of been of a slow burn. You know, Bill and Doug correctly describe Rutgers' program building as a slow burn, and absolutely has been since I was a kid. Part of that has to do with our state and local politics, our weird politics in New Jersey. You know, Rutgers obviously was a liberal arts university. You know, the mid-late 50s, the state legislature decided, hey, we don't have a state university named after the state, the only state in the country, by the way. Let's make Rutgers a state university. Even though culturally, academically, it was still like a public liberal arts college. And I remember as a kid going to Rutgers games in the early 70s, and on our schedule wasn't Michigan and Ohio State. It was Bucknell, Lehigh, Holy Cross, Army, Brown, Princeton, NYU. Yes, NYU actually had a football program. And I remember being at Giant Stadium 1976 when we defeated Colgate to go 11-0. That was kind of a big deal, but our schedule, you know, wasn't the hardest, but we were ranked. And so we've had this back and forth between trying to remain a good academic institution and moving the program forward into a national brand athletically. And we obviously went on to the Big East, where we struggled with West Virginia, Miami, and Virginia Tech, and on to the Big Ten, which I feel was I like the idea of going to the Big Ten when you're the 8th oldest institution in the country, and you invented football. You're kind of a fit with those kind of programs, and we struggle with Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. But I have total confidence. Greg Schiano will get us there. Absolutely, I feel we're going to get a top 10 ranking somewhere along the line. If we get into a college football playoff, that would be even beyond our wildest expectations. But Bill and Doug talked about a few different things in that regard. Bill feels, even still, we've had some success. Selling Rutgers is kind of difficult because it's kind of a commuter campus. And it is. You know, we've come a long way since the late 60s, the early 70s, when we started to build out Livingston and Bush. But in many ways, Rutgers still feels like a commuter campus. And even though we've expanded to whatever it is, and I think it's 5,500 acres, it still feels disjointed, not a unified, unitary, connected college experience. And for a lot of guys that, you know, that go to college, student athletes that go to literally the middle of nowhere, all you have to do is look at Penn State and Syracuse or West Virginia. These campuses are in the middle of nowhere and still manage to attract elite student athletes. So I feel there's something to that. We've had success recently. Recruits have been going to New York, hanging out on the beach. but you're going to be spending most of your time not on the beach, not in New York City, but on campus. And it helps to have a real college experience, to have the full scope of what it's like going to college. So there's something to be said for that there. I've been writing to the Star Ledger for years about how we need to change our higher education, and how not having, just making Rutgers and calling it the state university maybe doesn't help our branding and our identity. You know, maybe Rutgers College goes back to being a liberal arts university. Maybe Bushing-Livingston can become the University of New Jersey or New Jersey State University. Maybe one of the other state universities can become, you know, New Jersey State, whatever that might be. So I feel that that's fair. We still have, after many decades, have an identity issue. I remember back in the day when we played, you know, that famous game against Tennessee, and they're like, what's a Rutgers? Yeah, what is a Rutgers? I don't think we know. Nonetheless, when it comes to Greg Schiano and his ability to build a program in this market, smart guy, Bucknell grad. He was a linebacker at Bucknell, so he's got grit and determination. I feel that he's going to figure it out. It's a matter if we can execute on the field. And if he can, if Greg Schiano can execute on the field, I feel we're going to be building statues to him. And hopefully that's the case. Been waiting a long time for some elite success. 2006 is now 18 years ago. We dropped pass away from maybe getting into a college football championship series. Hopefully that slow burn turns into long-term cultural success. Everybody enjoy your weekend and stay cool, and we will see you the next time.